What's up, board game enthusiasts? Welcome to Monday morning. My name's Chris George, and it's another room and board. I think that's how that intro usually goes. And of course, that means two things. First, we have our weekly Garfield check-in. Poor little guy. You just gotta feel bad for him. He hates Mondays. I fear that this will become a weekly segment. And let me tell you, I hate it more than you do. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, although I suppose that could be debated, we have another episode of Crowdfunding Countdown, where we take a look at every single board game campaign finishing up on Kickstarter this week. So let's get right into the week. I'm filming this a little bit earlier than my usual spend my entire weekend working on it, because I'll be away this weekend playing board games, which I am very much looking forward to. But it also means if anybody signed up for Patreon in the meantime, well, I still appreciate you a whole bunch. Don't feel like I'm neglecting your shout out. It'll probably just be coming next week. As always, thank you to all of my patrons. You friggin' rock. You make this dark world of ours just a little bit brighter. And quite often funnier. And if you're not on Patreon, well, just do it. Think about all the money I've saved you. I want my commission. I'm just kidding. There's obviously no pressure. I try to never pressure anybody to spend any money ever on this channel. I am just grateful that you are here. Thank you for watching and commenting and just being a part of the channel week after week. I love you all. So let's get into the games, and we're picking up where we left off last week, which is good because these first two are really killing it, and the rest of it, well, yeah, you might as well just skip to the end. Spoiler alert. There's a couple interesting bits that'll happen. But first off, we have Unsettled. And if you missed it, well, I put out a full 5 reasons you shouldn't back Unsettled last week, so feel free to check that one out, where I go on ad nauseum about what excites me and the potential reasons why it may not be for you. Or at least hopefully checking your hype a tiny bit so that you can see clearly without the bloodlust for board games and back it if you think you'll really enjoy it. So by now you may have heard about Unsettled, but in case you haven't, it is this space survival game where it's you against the planet. Seems like they just stole the plot to Guardians of the Galaxy 2. And I think the Eternals? I haven't seen it yet, but I'm pretty sure they fight a planet. I mean, they've got to fight something gigantic since they just sat out when Thanos was around. They're like, meh, too small time. Half the universe? Blah. Nah, we got more important things to do. Anyway, it's just about surviving in a specific scenario depending upon what planet you're on. And you have these 3 dice, these focus cubes that represent your scientific knowledge in a particular field, and you use 2 of them to take actions every turn, and you rest 1 of them. And you struggle on against this scenario. Every time you take a turn, the time tracker goes down. If you have to move over particularly rocky terrain, the time tracker goes down. And every time it makes a full loop, everyone loses endurance. If your endurance ever gets to 0, well, you lose. You either accomplish your goals or you die. There is no in between. Just like how I was raised. The George family used to have 12 siblings, and, well, now we're down to 4. Anyway, it's $90 US or $110 Canadian for the base pledge. Or if you want to unsettle yourself completely, the full package with everything they've produced in their 2 Kickstarters costs $210 US or $267 Canadian. And let me once again attempt to talk you down a little bit off the ledge, just a bit, to do my due diligence. For those jumping in and you haven't played the base game yet, why not just get 4 planets at $120 US? Why not get the 6 planets at $150 US? You don't necessarily need 9 and all the different modules. If you're looking to cut corners and you want to bridge the gap between that initial pledge and the full pledge, well, just pick and choose. Pick the ones that look interesting and leave the ones that don't. Anyway, shipping here to Canada is pretty bad. Even after the $6 subsidy they give you, it's around $37 Canadian, so that's way too much for me right now. US is okay at 23. The UK seems really good at 14, but then again, I don't believe VAT is included, so you'll still have to contend with VAT. As for me, this isn't really a major consideration for me. I know people love it, but I'm not super enticed by the value that I see at that lower pledge, which still costs me like $150. So I think I'm taking a pass on this one. I've managed to avoid the hype monsters in the comments, because $150 is a lot of money. Go walk into your local game store and grab things off the shelf until you hit $150. I don't know, for me that would probably be my preference, but it's got a lot of positive reviews and it'll definitely be worth it to some of you. It just didn't pull me in personally enough to spend that kind of money. But if you are interested, that finishes up tomorrow. This is your last chance. Uh-oh, better jump all in. That's tomorrow at 6 p.m. Now, next up, we have a game called Earth. And this game is a tableau builder. You're going to want to build a 4x4 grid of cards that encompass the entirety of Earth. Everything that is on the Earth, you must condense into these 16 cards. And if you win, you then become a living god. But this has one of my favorite things in a board game, which is I pick an action and I get to do a special version of that action, and everybody else gets the weaker version of that action. So you're always getting to do something on everybody's turn, which is a real draw for me. But it also goes one step further, because every time you build a part of your tableau, every card has an associated color or an associated action. And when that action is taken, you also then get to activate your cards. So I see this as a game of a huge snowball effect, if you like that in your game. And it's through these particular cards where you will customize your own engine, because it really still feels, at least from reading through the rulebook, that you get to do a lot on other people's turns just on the base action. There doesn't seem like a gigantic discrepancy between what I'm choosing versus what everybody else is getting. I think the strategic decisions will happen in how you use your cards, which ones you build, how you chain that with your own actions, and then picking the correct actions that benefit you at the right time, which may not benefit the other people at that time as well. Because in terms of the actions, they basically boil down to get a bunch of resources, play a bunch of cards, or add points to those cards, depending on their growth rate, which is basically however many points they get to hold. If you think of Wingspan and the egg limit, that's kind of what I associate it with as a parallel. But it also potentially presents this interesting question of, do I go for getting more cards and finishing this tableau and getting the bonus for finishing first? Or do I go for points and just really grow the things that I already have? And the price here is a major draw. It's $42 US, which is $54 Canadian. And you aren't often seeing those sorts of prices on Kickstarter for a game that looks like it has a lot of content. This is very enticing. It looks to be a simple and yet hopefully really enjoyable game. I was really hyped about the price here. It's $12 shipping to the US and China, which is represented by a CN that my idiot brain thought was Canada. I was like, oh, only $12 shipping to Canada? Oh boy! It's $15 shipping to Canada, 15 US or $20 Canadian. So my total would be $74 Canadian. And it's like if I bought it at a store with a price tag of $65.99 and then you get the taxes on it. I was really ready to hit that back button at the 42 level when I convert it and make sense of it. I've cooled on it a little bit just based upon games that I don't own, that I'd like to own, that have that similar price point, and that I have neglected owning. You do get some nice wooden pieces as an upgrade, but I also feel like maybe I should take my own advice, and just because it's on Kickstarter and it feels fun to pull the trigger doesn't necessarily mean it should beat out those other games at that price point that I've also stopped myself from purchasing for whatever reason. But then again, it's Canadian, so let's go Canada. Screw what I said. Anyway, if you are interested, that finishes up tomorrow night at 8 p.m. But I really think this one is worth checking out. Now, next up we have a game called Trinity of Reign, and unfortunately, this is not a board game version of a parallel universe where the goddess Trinity K. Bonet reigns supreme over the last season of All-Stars. So a slight knock there. But this one, it looks like a better version of Risk, or rather maybe modern Risk, because you're going to be getting resources from the land and building a bunch of stuff, but also the combat system really reminds me of Risk because you're really just rolling dice at each other to see which army wipes the other one out. But there are a couple of fun twists. It's not just about winning the war. There are 3 victory conditions: a wealthy victory, where you manage to build your ancestral hall in the middle of your city and awe the world. So much so that they fall down at your feet, your gold, blinding them into submission. Or you have a military victory where you fight and you control certain parts of the lands. Or, my personal favorite, you have a religious victory where you convince the gods of your loyalty and abilities by brewing the ultimate potion. And I don't know why this made me laugh so much the first time around. I guess it's as equally silly as a wealthy victory. Although maybe not. Maybe when you obtain all that wealth, you've shown that you have so much influence over the land. If I've learned one thing from any fantasy series, being a big greedy merchant always works out well for you. You have people constantly doing whatever you want. Seriously, even that one dude in Attack on Titan. This is the first episode of the second, don't worry. But he was pushing his cart just loaded with wares through a tunnel while there's a lot of danger happening on behind him. And so many people are just standing around and they're like, we'd really like to go through that tunnel. But this guy, he's got all his gold and jewels and it's stuck and I guess we can't do anything. And he's endangering the lives of literally everyone for his useless garbage. But he's got money, so I guess we can't do anything. That statement can apply to, quite unfortunately, a lot of things. But not going down to that sort of darker strain of thought. For the gods to love you, you just have to brew this one potion that they love. And they're like, you know what? That was some delicious brew you cooked up. Okay, everybody hold it. The war is over. This guy, this random druid in the woods, he's reigning over the world now. But joking aside, the potions actually look like the most fun draw of the game for me. You're going to be gathering different ingredients associated with some of the different provinces, and you can brew these potions, which are basically world-altering spells that can cause earthquakes across the land, or just wipe out a neighboring continent completely. Just bending the land to your will, and honestly, it's making this whole god thing sound a little bit more believable due to the power of these sorts of things. And I really enjoy these sorts of variable win conditions. Lords of Hellas has them, and I like them in that. The fighting, you roll dice at each other, I think that's fine. But I also like that you get to secretly bid on how you're building your troops and your buildings. So you can bluff and say, I'm building all these troops, I'm gonna come attack you. And they're like, okay, and they do something else, and then you reveal your screen, and you're like, no, I actually just built this tavern for my friends. I also like that there's only 9 official rounds of the game, and in the first 2 rounds, you cannot attack anyone. So the game isn't necessarily about that military victory, although it does stand on its own, it seems. But it makes it feel everyone will have time to build up for their strategy and then enact their plans, and I like that. So if you live in Germany, the shipping's great there. To the US, it's 16 bucks. To Canada, it's 25 bucks. And this is an expensive game. It's 86 euros or $110 Canadian. The same price as the base of Unsettled, so you've really, I think, gotta be into it. But if you like the area control genre, check it out. I think this looks better than its funding goal and art suggest, but then again, it's also pretty expensive, so. But the hairiest player goes first, so you gotta give them that. Anyway, if you are interested, that finishes up on Wednesday, March 9th at 12 p.m. And this is the month of print and plays, it seems. If wine management wasn't your speed, and who can blame you after that wine o'clock character started to emerge, hopefully will never appear again. Well then drown your sorrows and your fears in Waterline. And this one looks, fine. You're trying to connect everyone's water lines in the city. Wow, that would make a really good name for a game. Wait a minute. But what I do love about this video is that they say it's perfect for small groups of people. 2 to 15 people, just a tiny, tiny group of 15 people. I think the last 2 years would like a word with you, Waterline. What did you do last night? Oh yeah, just had a casual dinner with a small group of 15 people. We rented out the restaurant. Some of us had to eat out on the patio. It was a small restaurant. Why, yes, of course, my normal game night of 15 people around a teeny tiny table. 15 it's a lot of people. It's scientifically proven to be 1 more clown than can fit in a clown car. And I know because I'm the one who made the tests. It's like folding a piece of paper in on itself over and over. You can only do it so many times. It's the same with clowns. You can only fold them in so many times. Even if you start reducing the size and the extraneous bits, you just can't cram any more in. I tried for months, and their screams still haunt me. Anyway, gameplay-wise, all of you Roll and Write fans will have to let me know what you think, because to me it doesn't seem that entertaining. Because for me, it doesn't seem that interesting. It makes me think that my neighbor who created a roll and write dungeon crawler that I friggin' love. It's the only game that I really want to always play solo. He should put that on Kickstarter. It's the month of roll and writes. This one, while combining 2 dice to create a different shape of pipe, seems fun. I think the size of the board and the amount of times that you do it might get a little bit stale. But it's only $6 US, so if you like roll and writes, check it out. No shipping, free shipping. Because you print it out yourself. Anyway, that's Thursday at 8 a.m. Next up, we have a game called Downtown Chase. And the story here, I'm almost at a loss for words. But I have learned something about what makes a city, because apparently every city has some slimy man of the people that nobody likes. And when you think about them, you know what you want to do? You just want to chase them all around town. You just want to chase them. And in Downtown Chase, here, that's Johnny. Here it is Johnny. No, that's not quite right. Hello, room service. My name is Jonathan, and I have that axe that you ordered. That's the quote. But you just want to chase him. Everybody in town wants to chase him. Small Arnold wants to chase him. Yeah, Small Arnold's pissed at him. All the other characters want to chase him. Shady Jim wants to chase him. Wait. Shady Jim. Does that mean that...
Somebody say Shady Jim.
No.
Yeah, when somebody says Shady Jim's gonna come to
hey
them.
there,
Oh,
Shady Jim.
Yeah.
I really hesitate to ask this, but is
What do
that
you
any
ask
relationship to Slip?
Slippery Jim. Oh, that's my no good dirty rotten
You don't
scoundrel
say,
brother.
huh?
Well, I do say slippery little bastard. Won the lottery and didn't give me a penny.
Well,
no,
seeing as
no,
how you're portrayed in the video, that might be the one sensible thing he's ever done.
In recompense, I've given up the gym night.
You don't say.
Yeah. Don't call me that no more.
Well, what should I call you then?
Ben.
Ben?
Big Ben. Yeah, the ladies, they call me Big Ben.
No, I'm not going to ask you why.
Because I always come on time.
Get out of here. I decidedly regret inviting you into my home. Out. I should have known from the Jims. Those friggin' pervs. What do you expect? Mr. and Mrs. Jim, I have to say, you have raised some truly despicable children. You did not set them up for success in life with your choice of first names. Slippery and Shady. How did I get here? What horrible series of events brought me to this point in my life? So anyway, back to Downtown Chase. You're going to join the ranks of the artist formerly known as Shady Jim and chase Johnny all over town, trying to draw the right combination of location and weapon and get your person by that location so that you can shoot him, because that's the reason why you were chasing him. You could have included that in the premise. You don't want to chase him. You want to kill him. You might as well call this Downtown Kill. You want to murder him for a number of backstory-related reasons that we certainly don't have time to cover, since Shady Big Ben Jim monopolized all the time in this segment. But one thing I do want to say is they say it's semi-co-op, but it's not. It isn't. It's whoever kills Johnny wins. That's it. There's no cooperation here. Oh, sorry, you can meet up with people in the streets and just punch each other for reasons that I am unsure of. I guess there's your cooperation. And if nobody catches Johnny, it's not like everybody loses. No, someone still wins. It's whoever has the most points. That is not semi-cooperative. Anyway, it's $49 US. You don't get miniatures with it. You get STL files. But hey, since they include the STL files that 2 of you with a 3D printer might take the time to use, they now can put it on their campaign page and make it look like you're getting minis. Hey, it probably will make you more successful in Kickstarter. Like, that's just how it is. Anyway, if you are interested in picking up a copy, it's really light. It feels very random. So you got it. That is Thursday morning at 11:01 a.m. Now, next up, if this episode isn't completely off the rails yet, we have a board game accoutrement called Stacki. Get yourself a little Stacki. And it's just a bunch of game trays. Honestly, just look at the pretty pictures while I go take a shower and wash the feeling of Shady Jim's oily voice off of me. I mean, if you do like these sorts of wooden upgrades, this looks like it'll be as good quality as anything else you might get. Personally, wood is way too pricey for the things that I would use it for. But the draw with this, I think, it might be cool if you had your own little RPG dice set and you could hand them out and just stack them all up. Something that is game specific that you needed to house and use for the same purposes. And I do like that they have these little variable foam trays. I think that's a nice touch, even though they're going to charge you for those as well. But it's 20 to 30 pounds for just one tray. One teeny tiny shallow tray that won't even hold all of your eggs in wingspan. And the whole draw to this one is that they stack. So you're looking at over $100 at least, over 100 pounds at least, to get one usable stacking thing, which, I mean, handcrafted stuff is expensive. The craftsmanship that goes into these takes a lot of work. I get it. But it's also so expensive that that's why none of these campaigns ever put the price on the campaign page. They never do. You always have to click through to a calculator, which is great, and I think is absolutely necessary for people to be able to add it up in their head and see if they can afford it. For me, I'll just stick with the dollar store bins. 10 for $1. But if you are interested, that's Friday at 11 a.m. And continuing on in our downward spiral, we have a game called Dinosauria, and I'm bunching this one together with a game called London Pub Crawl, because neither of them really have rulebooks, neither of them really have shipping. This is just to tell you that they exist. Dinosauria looks like it has more of potential. It's a micro game, but it still feels like it costs a bit too much, especially because I don't know what you're getting. But in this edition, you get poker. So just a deck of cards with dinosaurs on them. To be fair, dinosaurs are cool. And in the London Pub Crawl, you roll and move your way around a board to make your way to, quote, Burp Victory. And I've never heard of Burp Victory, but I can only assume that it's something that Shady Big Ben Jim would be interested in. Anyway, I don't know if it's Shady Jim that's taken the wind out of my sails, or, you know, these campaigns, but I just wanted to do my due diligence and let you know that they existed. Shady Jim has even stripped the satisfaction of me quoting my favorite catchphrase, "A night out in London has never been easier." That appeals to me. Sometimes you just want to sit down for a nice quiet evening with your small group of 15 friends and have a lovely board game about sips. Sipping some bourbons. Sippin's the bourbons. Let's move on to something else. Something maybe worse. Or maybe better. Next up we have Crabs in a Bucket. And this is a funny crab game. Oh, that didn't work. I guess it's because it's closer to a crabby card game. I guess that's a crab blowing the air horn. That is an actual recording of a crab, I swear. You can trust me. It's not just me hunched over a microphone going... Anyway, if you were intrigued by the name, and I certainly was, know that you're paying $20 for Crazy 8s with 22 jokers in them. 22 jokers that do various things when you play them. Oh, and one lobster old maid.
What did you just call me?
I am appalled that you would think I would speak about you that way, Maggie. I respect you too much, and I cherish you beyond measure. Well, you know what? Maybe I should have been. Because...
You're my lobster.
No, I absolutely shouldn't have. Our love is greater than the incredibly toxic relationship of Ross and Rachel. That is not a thing that anyone should aspire to obtain. Anyway, it's Crazy 8s. The art's nice. Crabs are cool, I guess. But it's Crazy 8s for $20. Let's move on to something exciting. We have the Western Legends Big Box, which provides a solution to your problem if you have too much Western Legends. If you were so inspired by Trey Parker's top 10 games of all time that you went out and bought everything Western Legends, pulled it out and threw it on the ground and burned the boxes in a monument to South Park. And now you're just left with this mess on your floor, constantly stepping on tiny little 6-shooters and poker chips. Well, then even I can't fault you. It sounds like the Western Legends is your personal pick of the week. I mean, I'd say you should go for it at that point. You absolutely have my blessing. Honestly, the amount of content that is out there for Western Legends, I wasn't aware of, but it looks like it's going to be this giant Gloomhaven-sized box that will still fit on your shelves. They emphasize it at 2 points throughout the campaign, saying, this will fit on most shelves. This will still fit on your shelves, we promise. So it is just enough, probably, to fit into a Calyx cubby. And if you're not a fan of Western Legends and you're thinking about picking it up, well, you can probably find it at your local game store for cheaper. They're offering it for $75 US here, and I can find it at mine for $80 Canadian, although they are out of stock. So I'm not actually sure of the availability there, but I really don't see how you would need this amount of content off the bat. If you don't know anything about Western Legends, it is this open sandbox world in a Western environment where you get to do basically whatever you would want to do in a Western. Gamble, raise cattle, prospect for gold, rob a bank, fight the bandits who rob the bank. And it's usually accomplished by, are you in a location? Well, you can do something at a location, or you can move to a different location. And if somebody else is there with you, well, you can fight that person. Now for the big box, it's $60 US, but it's actually $80 US if you didn't get a part of it during their previous campaign. They're relying on you to have gotten in on a previous campaign and gotten the specific trays associated with that campaign. Which makes it good that you're not having to print extra if you already do own that stuff, because it's high quality and they wanted to incorporate it. I think that's a smart design choice. But it also makes it less of a deal than it actually first seems if you don't have any of it. Anyway, shipping's $23 to US or Canada, 15 to 25 to the UK or Europe. It's not great. It's not the worst. I was thinking this should just be flat packed, but there's also a giant box that you have to think about the shipping. You dumb idiot. Me, not you. I knew you were thinking the other one too. Anyway, if you are interested, that is next Tuesday at 12 a.m., aka next Monday night, the 14th. And finally, we have a game called Starship Interstellar. And this campaign is very unassuming, but provides me with a few really fun things. The premise is that humanity, being the idiots that we are, have been stealing energy from the sun. And obviously, since we're sucking out its energy, we've made it a little bit unstable, and it's probably about to explode. So we have to find ourselves a new planet to live on. Luckily, there is another Earth planet out there that's basically a duplicate of our own. Does that mean there will be equally idiotic humans there that we'll have to invade and destroy? It doesn't matter. That seems like a future humanity's problem. Right now, we gotta get off this planet. And while I'm not sure that I enjoy in their video them gendering the sun, as a male no less, girl, the future's female, I do love that the common theme in any of these sort of Earth destruction scenarios, and there's a lot of games and movies like this, it's not just this one, it's that, man, the Earth is done for, we better go find ourselves a replica. And scientists everywhere are like, hey, oh no, hey, we actually do have a chance to save the world and not ever get into that catastrophic situation. We just have to stop doing some of the things that we're doing and actually destroying the planet. And the response is like, oh, yeah, but have you just considered moving to another solar system that we haven't discovered yet? Just accelerating our space travel capacities to transport all of humanity? Oh, dang it, I got a bit of mold on this wall. Pack it up! We're moving to another country! Like, that is the obvious solution that has to happen. But one of my favorite parts about this game is that you know that taking energy from the sun causes harm. That's the whole reason you're in this mess and have to find a new planet. But you can still choose to take energy from the sun because it gives you stuff. It selfishly gives you extra actions. And if a few minor planets that are the closest to the sun get caught in the crosshairs, who cares? The fact that planets where you can build your own little bases on, because you have to build a bunch of these bases to expand your network so you can eventually send probes out and find the new Earth, can be destroyed because you're too greedy at sucking the sun dry. I'm just gonna go with it now. I think that is so funny and thematically appropriate and is absolutely something that I would want to do in this game. I'd say, no, trust me, I am not taking energy from the sun. I promise you I won't take energy from the sun, or else Mercury will be completely engulfed. And then absolutely on my turn, I would take energy from the sun. Ooh, I need that resource cube though. Anyway, in terms of the gameplay, your actions are determined by these action tokens, which everyone starts with a set amount of, and you can get more throughout the game. So you can kind of think of them as specific workers. And some can be repeated, but what you'll do is on your turn, you'll take one and you'll place it out in front of you, or you'll activate the action on the current action token. Whenever you place one, you obviously cover up the one that's out there. And you'll keep on going until everybody passes. Then you will use the action tokens you didn't use. They have a reverse side that you can use during the salvation phase, where you can do things that, you know, might contribute towards saving humanity. Salving humanity, I should say. I mean, there's a lot of fun moving parts here. Literally. Because the planets are constantly rotating around the sun, so you have to plan out your routes when the planets are going to intersect. I don't know, I just think that's pretty neat. I really like that there's also a government track that you can influence and become head of the government, decide what things are going to happen when. You've got to contribute to building the rocket ship that will propel us to the new Earth as well. It looks really neat. It's also really expensive, as is everything on Kickstarter. It's in that sort of same price point, 89 euros or $127 Canadian, with 19 to 25 euros in shipping. At that price, it is out there. But this also does feel like a game with a lot of moving parts. And for me, those are the sorts of things that I look for to justify the price a little bit more. I don't know, it's a tough call on this one, but I think it is definitely one to check out. And that finishes next Tuesday at 1 p.m. And that's it. That is it for this week. As always, every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you. And I actually thought it was going to be the other way around, but I think just judging by how excited I was getting around that last one, my pick for me is going to be Starship Interstellar. I am really drawn into this one. This was a totally out of left field. I hadn't heard anything about it. Yeah, but there are so many things that I do like. It's a nice rule book to go through. It gives a really clear sense of how the game is played. If you are interested, I'd recommend reading through that, even just the first little bit. And yeah, the amount of moving parts appeals to me in a way that I see depth and complexity, but it also doesn't feel that overwhelming. Each thing makes sense to me, and I feel like it would be easy to pick up decently quickly. You just have to explain all the little bits around it. So yeah, that's my pick for me, Starship Interstellar. I think it's a little high on the price range. Probably take a pass on it for now, but I don't know. This one does look good, so I am hopeful that anyone who gets it will enjoy it. And then my pick for you is... no, it's Earth. It's Earth. Of course it's Earth. Earth looks fantastic. Earth was going to be my pick for me as well, but I think the reason I switched them at the last minute is I think Earth will have a little bit more of a wide appeal. I think it'll be easy to get to the table, and that price point is, for Kickstarter, a really good price point. Obviously factor in the shipping where you live and see if it's still worth it to you, but it's been resonating with a lot of people, and I think it does look fun. I was really on the fence when I read through the actual actions of what you do on your turn. I thought like it was a little bit more simple than I was hoping it to be, and the disparity between what I got to do versus what everybody else got to do seemed a little bit great, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized it is about the cards that you build and balancing, do I build more or do I not? And also, if you're streamlining in one specific type of action, what does that mean to your opponents? How can you plan your own actions because you know what your opponent's going to be taking? That sort of manipulating the turn structure feels like it'll be fun to me. I know they have a tabletop simulator mode if you want to play it in the next couple of days. I mean, there will always be late pledges on these sorts of things, mostly. And this one's raised almost $500,000 Canadian, I think. It's around that bar between 400,000 and 500,000. So it's doing very well, and I assume that there will probably be late pledges. But yeah, I'm really glad I stopped last week at Unsettled and then wanted to pick up from there, that I didn't cover Earth last week because I am excited to highlight it as the pick of the week. I think it looks really good. I like supporting Canadian designers, so that's my official pick of the week for you. Just get all of Earth. Just get it all. Just get Earth. Get the whole Earth. You can have Earth, and then I'm gonna go to Earth number 2. Anyway, that's it from me. As always, let me know what you're backing, what you're excited for, what things have come in the mail recently. I'm also curious about that. The interesting thing about Kickstarter and living in this Kickstarter space is that there is such a delayed gratification. And that's why I really emphasize and try to emphasize making sure you will be as excited when it arrives versus when you back it, because there's going to be a long time in between those two time frames. I know I have a few things that are almost here for me that I'm looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to figuring out the space for, but I am looking forward to getting a little surprise package on my door. So yeah, let me know. I'm curious. What are you backing? What are you not? Thank you so much for being here and for watching. Once again, my name is Chris George, and oh no, I don't have a catchphrase. I really don't. But I did want to talk to you a little bit about gun control.
Gun control? Oh yeah, I want to control all those guns. I like how they
should've
feel in my
known.
hands. So sleek, so slim, even
I
so
gotta get going before it
slippery.
becomes a family
Did somebody
reunion.
say
Yeah, I said
famine?
the last one.
Okay,
Famine reunion?
fine.
You can't just cut me off like that.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty rude.
Hey, Shady,
Hey, Slippery,
Mama misses you.
I'm my own mama now.